Hi, Krish. So,
in the world driven by the internet, without data modeling, you cannot build an efficient solution from a consumption perspective. So, what my recommendation in today's world we live in to many consumers who ask this question is bring the data assets, no questions asked. But once you bring the data into a staging area, into what used to be called in the Inmon era as the operational data store, if you will, or any area thereof, from that point, make sure before you start touching consumption aspects of the data, create a model on the process. So it is a combination of both, but how deep, how wide would you want to go is where automation comes in. And in the world we live in today, if you don't automate from the word get go, you're asking for trouble. So the answer to your question is data landing as is. Make it more close to the process. Data exiting to serve an analytic. Make that model more data driven, data centric. In between is where you bring in automation, AI, you bring efficiencies and run transformations. Logically, I would build a behemoth, I would blueprint everything that needs to be looked at. Physically implementing what is going to be my data warehouse can be multiple layers and can be facilitated by different technologies. That is where I would take more of a Kimball-esque approach, but not going with a dimensional model alone. I would rather make it more business centric models that would take that logical data that's gathered. So your raw data is single central source, but can serve multiple end state purposes by which you can spin up and spin out models as needed. Now, this is a trick to the trade, but are we ready to absorb it and are we ready to go to the next level? That's the question that stands in front of enterprises today. Insurance. So you can move and there's a whole different splash of areas coming in. How do you model this? What schema do you take? How do we take care of this thought process? So in 2009, 2010, Data Vault was introduced for the first time by Dan Lundstedt and Hans Holmgren in Denver. They said, hey, here is a methodology by which you could take critical data that's master to your systems, you could put it into a vault and secure it, and then you can access it from a vault on an as needed basis, by which now you can bring in multiple different kinds of data from multiple areas, and you can use the vault to do things. The concept was brilliant, but it took time to get noticed because we had not gone to the cloud yet at that time. If you look back in history, we had made a huge discovery that, hey, by vaulting, you could protect and you could offer things that you couldn't do before because you can take advantage of what you're bringing. That now has caught attention. Google is working on data vaulting, so is Microsoft, so is Amazon, and the host of other vendors that are doing services with them. Why? The reason metadata traditionally was different to what we want now is we were so smart in building silos. And we every time we plunged and took a leap into a silo, we made metadata specific to the business consumer that wanted to use that silo. If somebody else came in saying I find value in that silo, they didn't know how to access it because that metadata didn't make meaning to them. Or if there was common data sets that one particular team could absorb from what another team had done, it was not transportable at all because the metadata was locked and laid in bed with the data. Today, we have broken that chain loose. Yeah. You can bring one data and call it customer, but that same data that's customer to team A, which is sales, how much do I sell to this customer, becomes how much can I sell to this customer? Marketing, same customer, but that's a prospect to them. Your metadata is what differs. Values remain the same. That ease of making metadata relevant to the business without duplicating data is what will lead us to become the smartest of the companies in the world we live in. Of how automation would make you more efficient. So, in data modeling, in data warehouse design, in data warehouse implementation, if modeling can become more automated, which means you come in and say, hey, I'm coming in with the customer information, and imagine there is a customer table readily for you. System comes and says, hey, here is a customer table, and it has customer first name, middle initial, last name, address 1, address 2, city, state, zip, email, phone code or phone information, and then zip code and everything else. Now, it has 10 user defined fields added to it as the table comes, giving you the ability to do what you want. What does that automation do for you? It speeds up the necessity of trying to document each requirement. All that's removed, gone. That's the level to which we need to automate. Work. Understand that we have made leaps in the new tools, and those new tools are going to be the tools of the future, which is actually now, not tomorrow. So, for us to live in a better world now, we need to start embracing that change. And change means chaos. Chaos is the only constant in the world we live in. You can see that literally in the world we live in today. So, take a step back, spend a weekend, do some reading, listen to some serious podcasts from multiple vendors, understand what problems are being solved, and then try to put your mind and see how you can do the same thing with a new tool in your hand. Those are my parting comments for today's discussion.
Thank you so much for your time, Krish.
Thanks. Have a good night.